Welcome to Soulful Connections, where we skip the small talk and head right into the soul talk. I'm Amanda Solar, and each week we share the kinds of stories that remind us we're not alone. It's about being human, raw and unfiltered, just real talk. Let's connect. Connection. So today's guest is Lauren Yellin Weinberg, a psychologist turned national board certified coach, speaker, author. Lauren is the creator of the Expect Amazing framework and Shine coaching. And I want to talk all about that. But before I begin, first of all, Lauren, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm thrilled to get to sit and talk with you.
And then I wanted to ask, what has brought you some joy lately?
So, of course, you're leading me right into a story. I have to tell you a story. So, the story is that one day I was sitting in my house a few years ago already, and all of a sudden I had this feeling inside. And I'm like, what is this feeling? And upon really investigating it, I realized it was joy. I was feeling joy for no stinking reason at all, just for being. I was feeling joyful. And that was like a huge revelation to me that joy is not dependent on anything happening in your life, that it just can exist just because you are in a state of expecting and welcoming joy. And that actually was huge for me, huge.
Yeah.
And now I'm like on the lookout for it everywhere. Like that's one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning. Like, how much joy can I feel today?
I love that.
Because it's available. It's truly available all the time. And it's not dependent on anything. It's just an emotion. And you can go hunting and looking for things that help you feel that, or you could just be open to feeling that just through gratitude and just seeing the world around you, just knowing that like, isn't this amazing that I get to be part of all this? So, I mean, I have that feeling every day when I, go out for a walk and I take a look at the sky, no matter whether it's blue or gray, the trees, whether they have leaves or just the bare branches, like it's all amazing to me. And I know it sounds a little, I don't know, maybe Pollyanna or something to people who don't do this, but like, I feel like joy is all around me if I am open to seeing it. So I just bring my curiosity there and yeah, I mean, and my work. I mean, I just right before we got talking, I was on with a client. So much joy just getting to do what I do. Like I've just try to keep that joyful state around me.
I love that. And I know what you're saying when you think, oh, it might sound crazy to somebody who's not living like that. Also, it could be inspiring because let's face it, I mean, the alternative view can be really exhausting and challenges they're going to come up no matter what. So finding the joy is an art form. And I love that you're kind of giving other people an invitation into that approach.
Although that's a beautiful way to say it. It's a big part of what Expect Amazing is all about. It has to do with our expectations. And expectations aren't like a hope or a prayer. Expectations are a certainty, right? And trusting ourselves to live into those expectations. And the truth is, neurologically, we find whatever we're looking for, which is why some people always get offended because they're on the lookout for how they're being offended. Some people are always going to be happy because they're on the lookout for how they're going to feel happy. And I had to learn that. I came out of like the shadows. I came out of my own like fog and shadows to find that light, which is how Shine got developed, right? I understood like feeling that moment of joy for no reason at all. I'm open to it because I'm doing the practices that help me feel good about myself, that are helping me invite calm and love and all the good feelings. And so now I'm expecting those good feelings. I feel joy because I expect to feel joy. It's an expectation. When you tell your kids, like, I expect you home by 11.
Yeah.
Those kids better be home by 11, right? It's not a suggestion. You're expecting them
Right.
to come home. And
That's
joy could be like that
interesting.
as well, too. Like,
Yes. I never really, I never thought about that, but I love that. You know, the difference between hoping and wishing and expecting is really huge. So can you share, when did you come up with Expect Amazing? How did you think of it?
absolutely. So I had been very much doing my Shine works. My coaching program is called Shine, and that's an acronym. And I've created workbooks to support its methodology to help you really see, know, accept, and love yourself, and give yourself permission to grow and expand, to see the possibilities ahead of you. And I started to notice that for some people, they didn't need that permission. They didn't need to
Mm.
give themselves that permission. They just assumed that either they would be happy, they would be successful, that they deserve to put their own health needs first. Like, some people didn't need to give themselves permission or to explore even the possibility for
Hmm.
that. Um, I met a woman who grew up in the most dire of circumstances, in poverty, in, such, without any guidance. I mean, really, the most dire of circumstances. And she turned around and ended up creating a business that sold to a major company for, millions of dollars. I'm like, how did you, like, what was that? Like, how
Mhm.
did you give yourself permission to, like, create that? And she said to me, like, it was never an option. Like, I always knew this was not going to be my future. And I start to hear those stories, right? Once it's like when you buy a
Yes.
new car, right? You get this car and you've never seen it anywhere, and then you start seeing it everywhere. I started to hear these stories everywhere of people who just had that expectation
Mm.
that this was not an option for them. And it may not be across the board. It may not be, health, wealth, relationships, purpose,
Yeah.
your happiness. It may not be all of it, but it's somewhere.
Yeah.
And I started to realize there was something there. There was a sense of deserving. There was a sense of that they were worthy of creating that for themselves. And that led to them having an expectation for that. And this word just really took on a lot of meaning for me. Like, what does it mean to expect? Amazing is a whole different thing. Amazing is whatever amazing is to you. And I think that is worthy of exploration for everybody, right? I mean, we need to decide both our big dreams and what does every day look like? What would make every day feel amazing, right? That's why I'm on the lookout for joy. Like, what would make every day feel amazing? So figuring that out is half the puzzle. But the deeper part is the expectation. Do you truly have an expectation of creating amazing in your life?
Yes.
And that, I guess it was maybe about a couple of years ago when this started to crystallize for me. And I took a speaking course. And through that speaking course, I started to noodle with this concept. Here's another thing that put me onto it. There was a program called the Big Door Prize. Turns out it's a book. I love the book, but the program was fun too, the Big Door Prize. And in this program, people went into a carnival-like machine. It was called the Morpho. And the Morpho would spit out this little card and it would tell them what their life purpose was. And this thing turned the entire town upside down. Suddenly, everybody was living their purpose. Of course, there was dramatic tensions. Not everybody had a purpose that felt great to them. What did it mean? Some were more veiled than others. But suddenly they were giving themselves permission to do the thing that they always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, why don't we give ourselves that permission? And I started thinking, what? The Big Door Prize just for being alive is
Yeah.
getting to do what lights you up inside. It's getting to do what is your internal purpose, is your reason for being, whether that's professionally or not professionally. but you're engaged in doing what lights you up inside. You don't need a machine. You don't need external permission to do this. You can give yourself that permission. So a couple of these things were coming together all at once. And I was like pulling the threads together. My favorite author is Frederick Bachman. And I feel like he is so amazing at pulling the threads of a story and weaving them together. And I felt like that was what was happening with Expect Amazing. These threads started appearing, and I started to knit this beautiful new garment, and that garment was Expect Amazing.
Have you always been one who gives yourself permission? Has that just been a natural?
Heck no. Thank you for asking. No. No, and in fact, it was a huge roadblock in my life. So if anybody is listening and not watching, like, you don't know, but I'm a little bit later in the game here, right? I'm in my 60s. I just turned 62, and I did not come back to work until I was in my mid 50s. I was home before that for almost 20 years. What I did originally is I'm a psychologist and a family therapist by training. I did that for several years, and then I was home. I never finished my doctorate. So I was very lucky that I was able to get licensed under my master's. I was the last year in Pennsylvania to be able to do that. I was able to take my American Psychological Association exam to become, nationally board certified as a psychologist. And I went through everything. I did all the things on what's known as ABD, all but dissertation. And that is a real purgatory. Why did I land there? I landed there because, and it took me a long time to figure this out.
Yeah.
I realized I never fully expected to finish. I sort of felt like I backdoored my way. And I was at the University of Pennsylvania, right? I was at like the storied Ivy League University of Pennsylvania. How the heck did I never even applied to college. I mean, it goes deep. I can go in and give you story upon story, but I felt like all along I had been backdooring my way forward. And it's not true, of course. I did beautifully there. I ended up graduating from Penn undergrad and sub-matriculated into a master's program, then did a family therapy program, and they actually invited me to come back and do my doctorate.
Wow.
So I knew I was performing, but I could never see it. I never saw the end. I never saw how I would be using it. I didn't have the vision for it. And I think what was blocking me is I hit my own worth wall. I ran right up against what I felt worthy of. This was far beyond anything I had imagined for myself. And I didn't do the things I needed to do. I didn't have the courage at that time to take step by step and move forward past that worth wall. And that's what Expect Amazing is all about. It's all about being able to push past that worth wall, to understand that fear is just an indicator that something better is waiting for you on the other side. That, to be able to really see what you want for your future and then speak it and create the action you need to take it. I wasn't there. I wasn't there at the time. And there were all these other reasons. I started having children and, all these other reasons why it was easy to leave it unfinished. But the truth is, I didn't feel like I was giving myself permission to really rise to that occasion.
When you were like a little girl, what were you like? Were you somebody who always knew what you were going to do or be? Were you somebody what did you like to play? Like, how did you spend your time? Can you share a little bit of that?
It's so funny that you should ask that. So, no, I did not always know what I wanted to be. I was always drawn to helping.
Yeah.
Even as a child, I volunteered with other kids. In my teenage years, I was volunteering for a program of kids who now we would say are neuroatypical, right? So I've always known that I'm a helper, right? Because we are who we are by nature. I always started rescuing animals as a 4-year-old.
Wow.
Like, I mean, it's not that dramatic. It wasn't organized, but
No,
I
I
would
know
find
exactly what you
strays.
mean. I feel like even rescuing one animal as a toddler, as a little kid, is an indicator of some sort of something about you.
Well, I think that's true, right? I think that we show ourselves very early on. In fact, it's funny, I found recently my kindergarten evaluation.
Oh,
And the teacher described me, must have been a great teacher, but she described me in such detail, and it was exactly who I am today.
what did she say?
Well, she said that I had this, vocabulary beyond my years, and I loved words, and I was imaginative, and I loved to interact with the other kids. And, just the way
Yeah.
that she described me was exactly me. And we are who we are. The seeds are there.
Yeah.
And that is what my coaching is all about. It's not, see, I call myself the becoming coach, right? Because we're
Mm.
always in that process of becoming, but becoming isn't about adding things. Becoming is about taking away. Becoming is about losing all of the static between who we, and I promise, audience, I didn't ask her to ask me that question.
I'm, she's just nosy, audience.
She's just nosy. Got good instincts. And really, I really hadn't thought about it like this exactly. But because we are who we are, we were born feeling worthy. Nobody ever says, oh my God, I don't deserve all of this milk that my mother is feeding me. We are born feeling worthy. Everything between there and now is accumulated static,
Hmm.
it's accumulated
Yeah.
junk and nonsense. All of our experiences, the messages, like everything we're exposed to from society down to our own family, it creates a barrier between who we're meant to be and who we are. And again, I think it comes unevenly. That's why there's more static in some areas for different people than others. But my coaching is all about getting rid of that stuff, being able to shed the story that's attached to our history and rewrite the story. Like, it's just story. You can write whatever story you want.
Yeah.
So, so I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time, just to finish answering your question,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in my imagination. I spent a lot of time imagining people's stories, imagining I could be anything. I could be playing with jacks and suddenly they were a ballet, and I put them on a mirror and spin them and they were at the ballet. Like I was very deep into my imagination. And if I played with dolls, it was only in service of the story that it was telling. And so I love to see that thread show up now, that story is so important in my work because we can control the story we tell ourselves. It's just a matter of catching it, the negative story, right? Catching what's holding us back and rewriting the story.
I love it. People listening might wonder about the difference between your expectations and your current reality, the reality that you're living. How do you navigate that balance? And I know that that's a big question, and I don't expect you to fully just solve that. But can you just touch upon somebody who's saying, yeah, well, this is my reality. Um, Rent is due for my apartment, and my relationship is gone, whatever it is, Can you touch upon that?
Absolutely. And, I touch upon it frequently because my husband and I argue about this all the time. And he's like, well, it's nice to be airy fairy up in the sky talking about these wonderful, expect amazing, but, he runs a business and he's got 30 people depending on him. And, he has all these responsibilities. And I get it. I get it. And there are some people who feel that they have, nothing, right? The circumstances that they were born into gave them no leg up, right, in this society, and the world is stacked against them. And I understand that. It's hard to take, you have to meet people where they are, right? And I
Yes.
understand that for some people, the reality feels really hard. But I also know that, like my friend Sandy, who grew up with a single mom, and she grew up in the projects, and her mom was often in mental hospitals, often institutionalized.
Wow.
And she now not only built herself a thriving business, but what she specializes in is helping people experience joy, helping people find joy.
Mm.
And so how do you get from there to there? It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible, and it has to do with that mindset. And she said when she would go visit people in the hospital, when she would visit her mom, she said, you know what? I don't know what to do here. I'm 9 years old. I don't know what to do, but I can dance and I can sing and I can help them feel a little happier right in this moment. And I was listening to Tracy Chapman's song came on the other day, right? Fast Car. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the story, right? Like
Yes.
we're in this situation that feels bigger than us. It feels like it's meant to hold us down. But you know what? You've got a fast car. I've got a vision to get us out of here. Like we can go do something else. We can save up some money. We can start incrementally making shifts in our life. So, no, is it, yes, you need the big picture. Who else did I hear the other day? It was an athlete. And their brother was saying, oh my God, like they were always talked about making the NBA. They always spoke that they knew they were going to get there, and I didn't believe it. They, they grew up same story. They grew up with nothing, and this kid, he saw it for himself. And you hear that story from athletes, from actors. You hear it from Oprah. You hear
Yeah.
the story all the time, where people had a vision for themselves that something great was going to happen, and that's amazing because that's like a beacon. You don't know how you're going to get there. You don't
Yeah.
have to know how you get there, but know that you want that for yourself. And then you just start one step at a time, your next first step. And it's the mindset. If you're going to see only the blocks, you're going to be blocked. If you're going to challenge yourself to see the possibility, to expand that possibility for yourself, you can make it happen. You absolutely, there was a kid who grew up with my children. He was friendly with my son. And this kid, same thing, he came from nothing. His father was incarcerated. His mom worked probably 3 jobs and he never saw her because he was on his own and he was like incrementally adopted by these various families. This kid had the wherewithal to know, you know what, I'm going to go make friends with kids who are the smartest kids in the school because they are going someplace I want to go.
Yeah.
And he did. He met those kids. He made sure those were his friends. He started getting invited to their homes and seeing how other people lived. By speaking his dreams out loud, people helped him along the way. He now has like an amazing career. He made something of himself. He's 30 now. Like he
Yeah.
really made something of himself because he allowed himself to not be locked in by his reality. He
Yeah.
allowed the opening for something bigger for himself. So that's what I would say is if you feel locked into your reality, it's okay to dream. It starts with a dream. It starts with, I say, one of the most powerful things you can do every day is daydream. Spend
Mhm.
5 minutes a day intentionally daydreaming. See your future. Maybe you can't see 30 steps forward, but maybe you can see 2 steps forward. And you can give yourself permission to take that next first step.
Beautiful. So powerful. And now I'm going to take a complete right step. And I'm going to ask you they're just what I consider soulful questions that have no rhyme or reason, Lauren. So
Let's go.
just preparing you.
Bring it
Um, so if you had to say a book or books, if there are a few that really shifted something in you or really impacted you, what would it be? Or what would they be?
There are so many. Like I have a hard time putting my finger
Yeah.
on one thing. I mean, I would point to Tara Brach, anything by Tara Brach, who one of my biggest shifts came from hearing meditation that she was doing. But one thing that really helped to expand me, I don't know if this goes in the category,
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
but they are angel cards that I got from Alana Fairchild. And I should have had them right next to me. They're like over there, but they are it's a white light oracle deck is the deck that really shifted me. Alana Fairchild has such a beautiful way, it feels completely channeled to me. She has such a beautiful way of seeing everything in the right light, in the white
Yeah.
light, even, you know, in a
Yeah.
beautiful light, like expanding that possibility, helping us to frame just what I'm talking about, the
Yeah.
vision for seeing ourselves as bigger and brighter and better than we are.
Mm.
And it's, you know, there's 30 pages in there at least of just her explaining her viewpoint. But even the descriptions of each card, whether
Mhm.
you believe in spiritual stuff or not, like it's
Yeah.
such a beautiful perspective, even on the things that keep us blocked. Like it doesn't feel judgmental, it just feels possible.
What about a guilty pleasure? Something you do or something you watch that you're thinking, oh, I don't know about this, but I enjoy it.
So I'm sort of right out there about it. I really enjoy a good TV show. And because I love story, right? It's
Yes.
no surprise. I love novels, I love TV shows. But right now I'm rewatching Friends,
Right.
right? It's 20 minutes
Yeah.
an episode. It's always so light and funny and still gets at connection,
Yeah.
right? We all wished we had that friend group, right? It gets to that sense of belonging. And what we really do
Mm.
know from the longevity studies, the Harvard longevity studies, the most important finding of all is how important connection is to us. And so I find that I like, it's funny, my daughter pointed this out to me, like the TV shows that I like, the music that I like, the books that I like, they all have like a greater meaning to them. They
Yeah.
all point toward connection in some way, whether it's connection to ourself, connection to the world, the universe, connection to others. Um, and Friends, like while it's just light and airy, and I watch it like while I'm washing up at night, you know, and it's like that last 20 minutes just sends me off in a happy place.
Yes.
Like, right, you know, maybe meditate before you go to bed, or
Yeah.
no, watch Friends because
Yeah.
it ends me on a really happy, hopeful note.
Yeah.
And I laugh out loud every episode, and it feels like a not so guilty pleasure. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I know people are like, you do what? But I do.
I relate. Mine on that vein is probably like Schitt's Creek.
Oh, yeah.
I totally can just watch and rewatch and watch again.
And isn't it the same thing though? Like the beauty of Schitt's Creek was their self-discovery.
Yes.
And you don't discover yourself only in a bubble. You discover yourself in relationship. You need both. You need that internal journey and you need that external journey. And that was why Schitt's Creek was so meaningful and so beautiful because you watch them grow and develop.
Yeah. Well, speaking of relationships,
Mm.
what is a trait that you love in others that will immediately kind of connect you or draw you in?
So I love people who are willing to go there, right? So I go
Mhm.
deep. I go deep. And I always say, like, I know my coaching is not for everybody because I go deep.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody who wants just that surface kind of quick fix, like, I'm not your person.
Yeah.
If you, what I love about people is their ability to not, it's not only about uncovering your own vulnerabilities because I stay in the light, you know, but it's
Yeah.
the ability to ask the questions and to have conversation and know that we are only part, like I really am drawn to people who know that we're only part of a larger whole. And I love to have that discussion with people. And I have a very deep spiritual understanding. It's not religious, it's spiritual. I feel truly connected to something, a bigger part of myself that I think does not quite live here on earth.
Yeah.
And that's very important to me. And I prefer if my friends don't look at me like I have six heads when I say it.
What about a pet peeve? What is something that you find irritating?
So a
I
pet
love
peeve.
you. Do you love how I say that right after you say stay in the light? And I'm like, come on, come over to the dark side.
You can keep trying to get me there. Um, So ironically, or maybe very much in keeping with who I am, the pet peeve that arises for me is people who are trying to keep people in the dark.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what really got under my skin is this concept of toxic positivity. And I honestly don't know fully how that was originally intended, but it bothers me because it's sort of like giving people permission to stay in their victim mindset and to
Mhm.
feel that other people are somehow dictating to them the breadth of their experience. Like this person's toxic positivity is denying me my full
Yeah.
experience. And I just have to call a little bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to appreciate that from somebody. Just say to them, thank you and no thank you. But it's gotten morphed. And I understand, okay, that concept, like,
No, I get
you
you.
hope, right? You hope your friends can go there with you. If you're experiencing something negative, and look, I have technique on technique, right? I've got a whole worksheet, a whole methodology for feeling your feelings with compassionate curiosity. You need to feel your feelings. That's part of living amazing every day. Your feelings are your teachers. They're not to be pushed aside. There's nothing Pollyanna about what I do. But you do it productively. You use compassionate
Mhm.
curiosity to experience the full breadth of whatever is happening for you, and then you evolve from that.
Yeah.
It's, of course, uses the SHINE acronym. The last, E in SHINE is always evolve. You evolve forward. You
Mm.
don't get stuck. And what happened from that toxic positivity, I had like when that first came out, I had a rash of people. I'd be on a show or a podcast, and somebody would inevitably drop a question and say, how do you do this? And don't tell me to be positive. Like,
Yes.
positivity is toxic. No, positivity is not toxic. We need positivity. Another finding from the longevity research
Mm.
is that people who have a more optimistic and positive attitude are more likely to be connected with others. They are more likely to live a longer, healthier, happier
Yeah.
life, right? We need positivity in our life. So that's my pet peeve is, maybe there was just an article, I think this week or last week in the Times, about somebody who was trying to call it toxic confidence. Like, they're looking for something to
Yeah.
give them a little burst, like to get an attention on something. But so ironically, he ended his article by saying, send this to somebody who you think needs a little more toxic confidence. And I'm like, because you're not describing anything toxic. You're describing
Right.
confidence. Yes, if you don't have it, it maybe looks intimidating from somebody who does, but that's nothing toxic about it. Like, toxicity is only if you're willing to take it in are you experiencing something toxic.
Yeah, that's a great point and one that I haven't given enough thought to. We hear a buzzword and then we just kind of toss it around. And even the word toxic has become attached to so many different things. And, you know, yeah, it can be really dangerous to take one of these buzzwords and just kind of apply it randomly to justify whatever.
It really has, but you got to remember what I said earlier, which is we find whatever we're looking for.
Mm,
So if you're focused on toxic, you're going to find toxic,
yeah.
and you forget about the positivity. Like, let it go. That's why I have these two sweatshirts. One says no bad days and one says good days only. And it struck me how they seem to be saying the same thing, but they make you think of such different things,
Ah,
right? No bad days. You're starting to think about, okay, what are the things I want to avoid? What do bad days look like? What makes a bad day? How do I not have that? Is so different than good days only, because then
yeah,
you're thinking, okay, what makes a good day?
yeah,
How do I only have good days? Now, of course, you're never going to, it's very black and white thinking, have only
sure.
one or the other. But just the concept that, be careful how you use your words.
Yeah.
Like, be careful how you use your words in your head. Be careful how you use your words speaking them and writing them. Words are very powerful.
Hmm.
And both in communication with others and in communication with yourself.
Yes.
And that's what turned things around for me, is I changed the way I was speaking to and about myself. Because after I didn't finish my dissertation, I worked for a few years and then decided to stay home. It
Yeah.
was an out for me. It was an easy out. But it's because inside I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel good that I didn't finish that work. I didn't understand it. I didn't feel good about it. And inside I started just shrinking. Nobody would have known outside. Outside I was gregarious. I ran everything.
Sure.
I did right. But inside I was disappearing. And
Yeah.
I started to make myself the butt of the joke. Thankfully, like I had a good friend who heard me over and over, sort of like reaching for myself as the
Mhm.
right, the humor. And
Yep.
she's like, stop talking about yourself that way. I heard her. I was like, I feel like that angel on my shoulder said,
Mm.
listen to this.
Yes.
And that shifted everything for me. It's a huge part of what I offer now. It's a huge part of Expect Amazing, a huge part of Shine. That's like what allowed me to catch the negative story and rewrite it. And that shifted everything. It created so much spaciousness. What
Do
what
you
was the
feel
other
comfortable
question?
sharing what the acronym SHINE stands for?
Absolutely, my pleasure. So Shine stands for see, the S in Shine stands for see yourself, right? So you want to see yourself with honesty, compassion, acceptance, and love. And that's the good parts that are easy to love and the imperfections, the parts that are harder to love, the parts that you wish that you weren't gifted with.
Yes.
Because it all makes you you. I mean, if we were all, I'm putting in quotes like perfect, that wouldn't be interesting or fun at all. I mean, we all, and it's also part of our soul journey to like love and accept these orphaned parts of ourselves. So that's the S. H stands for honor yourself. And that's very holistic, body, mind, heart, and spirit. And it has to do with the way you speak to and about yourself, the way you treat yourself, just bringing respect to this human that you were blessed to be in charge of. So that's, taking care of your health, keeping your mind engaged, experiencing all your feelings and feeling connected spiritually in whatever way that works for you. It's internal and external connection. The I stands for investigate the possibilities. And this is that opening, that broadening of what's possible for you and allowing yourself, just giving yourself permission to dream as big as you want to go and then go a little further, right?
Yeah.
The N stands for neutralize the negative, and that's all the technique, so much technique on quieting those internal and external voices that drain your energy internally and drain you externally. Um, it's all the challenging the way that you think, challenging who's in your life, the activities that you're choosing to do. It's about building boundaries. It's like all the ways to turn down the volume on the stuff that keeps us stuck. And the E stands for evolve your energy, knowing that we're always evolving, we're always becoming. And by the end, by that point, I really have seen my clients, they shine so bright that they light up the world around them. And your shining never casts shadow on anybody else. It just gives other people permission to shine.
What a gift.
Mm.
I have to say, Lauren, I really appreciate all that you brought to this Soulful Connections podcast episode
Thank you.
because it's illuminating for me. So I know it will be illuminating for people listening. Um, I just feel really grateful. So thank you for what you shared and for being here.
Oh, Amanda, I feel grateful for you giving me the opportunity, sharing your audience and your time with me. But even more so, like the questions that you ask are so important for me to reflect on. And I feel like it's given me an opportunity to go even deeper in my own understanding. So thank you so much for that.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. Thank you for being a valued part of the Soulful community. Thank you to William Aronson for writing, recording, and producing the Soulful Connections theme song. And finally, always know you're not alone. We are connected. We're all in this thing together, and you and your story are important. Let's just keep on connecting.